Cheers and happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone. Danny Diamond here. You're in the diamond mine. That is delicious. Homemade fresh margarita, courtesy of my wife, Tracy, also known as Kitty. We are going to have a lot of fun today. We're going to jump right into a pretty mammoth list that I've made. This is my list, not the definitive list, but my favorites in order from least to most favorite solo artists ever. So this is part one, tier two. So we're going to jump right in here. We're going to start with my 30th favorite solo artist ever, and the album that really kind of turned me into a fan, John Lennon. It's John and Yoko there, the Double Fantasy album. Got into this right around the time of his passing, 1980. Some really classic material here. Feels like starting over. Wonderful tune. Then another artist that both my parents admired, especially my mother, John Denver. I did some John Denver at her service this past summer, and this is the album Poems, Prayers, and Promises. Wow. Has Sunshine on My Shoulders on it. Incredible song. John Denver. Next up, keeping it going with really classic rockers, Mr. Elvis Presley. My father gave me, I think I first was aware of Elvis somewhere around 6 years old, so right around the time I started playing piano, so it would have been 1975, thereabouts. This compilation, I racked my brain, and I think the closest that I can get to an accurate year that I would have been given this would have been sometime maybe around 1985 or 86, something like that. But I've been into Elvis for a while by then. Now here's an artist at number 27 that I was first made aware of when his first album came out, but it took me a few years to really get into him. Getting together with Kitty helped, and we have seen him in concert. Amazing artist. This is his 2010 album, God Willing and the Creek Don't Rise. This is Ray LaMontagne. Ray has just an incredible voice, hugely influenced by Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, especially by Stills. Amazing artist. Check Ray LaMontagne out. For the Summer, in my opinion, his very best song is on this record. Up next, representing some of the ladies here, Miss Alanis Morissette. In 1995, you could not escape this record, Jagged Little Pill. I know she did some stuff on kind of the teeny bopper tip prior to this, but for the artist she is now, by all intents and purposes, this was her debut album, Jagged Little Pill. Just a multitude of hits. Deep cuts are wonderful too. Really great artist. At number 25, Jason Mraz and the incredible debut album, Waiting for My Rocket to Come. This came out around 2003. I got into it pretty immediately. I remember listening to it just constantly during one of my many pizza delivery gigs. Got my cousin Jim into this too. Jim Crawford, I'm sure you remember this album. You and I both. Remedy, great song. Number 24, John Mayer. I think when he first came out, and Your Body's a Wonderland and all that, I think I maybe misjudged him along with a lot of other people. But he has proven himself to be quite the artist and the songwriter, hell of a guitar player in my opinion. And this is his second album, Heavier Things. Really got into it when I started my current job back in 2004. And not too long after that, his very guitar-intensive Try album by the John Mayer Trio came out. But this is the first album of his that really kind of caught my attention and made me reevaluate him. And I got a hold of it around 2004, a few years after it came out, borrowed it from a coworker, and I've been a fan ever since. And he is one of my wife's very favorite artists, so we listen to a lot of him. Another artist that I probably misjudged by her first album, but the second album changed my mind, and has since changed my mind about the first album. Coming in at number 23, Miss Sheryl Crow. Unbelievably talented, had done some backup vocal work for Michael Jackson, had done some backup vocal work for Don Henley. It was Don Henley who supposedly just really encouraged her, heard some of her songs, encouraged her to give it a go as a solo artist, and aren't we glad that she did. Another one of my wife's favorite artists is on this list for me too, and I actually got into him right off the bat. This is still my favorite album. He has done some solo records too, but most of his things are released under Dave Matthews Band. This album came out in 1993. Under the Table and Dreaming, has Ants Marching, has Satellite, my favorite Dave Matthews song on it. Incredible record. Many wonderful albums have been put out since by the band and by Dave solo. Just fantastic stuff. Now this next entry is Mr. Bryan Adams, coming in at number 21. And Cuts Like a Knife, fantastic record, still my favorite by him. You've got the incredibly classic title track with some just ferocious lead guitar playing on it. You've got This Time, you've got Straight from the Heart. Those were the hits. Some of the deep cuts are really great too. I'm Ready, just fantastic record. The Reckless album that came right after it was pretty mammoth as well. Coming up next at number 20, Pete Townshend. Now Pete Townshend's solo career, obviously he's best known for The Who, but he's put out at least 2 stone cold classic records as a solo artist. This is the first one of them, Empty Glass, and then All the Best Cowboys Have Chinese Eyes. And then the rest of his solo material has kind of been a little hit or miss in my opinion, but these 2 albums are basically perfect. So got to give Pete some love on this list here. Next, and you may just be hearing some of this guy behind me, different album that I'm about to show you, the one that got me into him, but you want to call him John Cougar Mellencamp, John Mellencamp, call him what you will. He's terrific. American Fool, 1982 was all the rage at Mendenhall Junior High. I couldn't escape this album, and I'm glad I couldn't. Wonderful record, great artist. Now, this is someone who's been around forever. I probably didn't get into him until around 1985 because I remember my friend Jimmy King would play, when he wasn't playing Skinner, he would play Harvest by Neil Young. Unbelievable record, really nice thing to turn to when you're in for something mellow but not boring. So the great Neil Young, vocals maybe a little bit of an acquired taste, but I really dig him. Great songwriter, really underrated acoustic guitar player. His electric playing is a little on the sloppy side, but it's very entertaining too. His harmonic playing is pretty terrific as well. Okay, so we're winding down this list. I'm zipping right through it, but I just felt like 30 artists in one video was a little much, especially when I've got margaritas to drink. At number 17, say what you want about the mess he made of his personal life, but Michael Jackson was a fabulous artist. And Off the Wall, I was aware of this very aware of this when it came out in 1979. I was 10 years old. I can remember trying to skate at Skateland USA, and a lot of tracks off this record would dominate what everyone was skating to. Michael Jackson at number 17. And then closing up part 1, tier 2 would be an absolute musical genius, Mr. Stevie Wonder. And I can remember a neighbor in Carriage Hills, the neighborhood I grew up in, had this record. And I feel like it was around 1980 when I first listened to it and became aware of his genius. Now, my favorite Stevie Wonder album, the one that I know the most intimately, is Intervisions, but I was already a fan and had been for some time when I got a hold of Intervisions, which of course came out before this album, but I got it sometime late high school. That is, just to recap, John Lennon, John Denver, Elvis Presley, Ray LaMontagne, Alanis Morissette, Jason Mraz, John Mayer, Sheryl Crow, Dave Matthews, Bryan Adams, Pete Townsend, John Cougar Mellencamp, Neil Young, Michael Jackson, and Stevie Wonder. Please come back for part 2, tier 1, and we'll see you in just a few minutes. Maybe make a margarita. I know I'm about to enjoy the rest of this one here. I'll see you in a few minutes.